Hey, Apostate Ashley here. I'm an ex-evangelical pastor and now a member of the Clergy Project. I interview other ex-pastors to find out why they left the pulpit too. Check out my playlist called The Clergy Project, where you can find more stories like this one. So today I am interviewing Mason Lane, who has been a part of the Clergy Project since 2012. The Clergy Project was established in 2011. So Mason is basically a veteran of TCP. So he was a pastor in his 30s, and today he's 81 years old. So he has been an atheist for nearly 50 years. Please join me in welcoming Mason.
What shall we call this? Mason's monologue about evangelical horseshit. You can entitle that, with my permissions, Mason's monologue about evangelical horseshit. It's just...
That would be a good one. I would probably get more views with that rather than just an interview with Mason Lane.
Yeah, go with it, please.
Please make sure to like and subscribe, but most of all, enjoy the interview.
Favorite things is catch up. I've been playing catch up for 50 years. And, when you're stunted and fundamentalist of all kind, and all my comments relate to fundamentalists, whether evangelical, Jewish, Islamic, the fundamentalists do the damage. I've never come across a person in any liberal religion that's really been damaged.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's because they cherry pick for the right reasons. They get rid of all the hateful stuff.
Well, that's exactly it. But the fundamentalism, I was so stunted in ways of, the anti-science, the anti-anything, but, secular music was like evil word. When you're 30 and you're starting your life that you should have been doing, and a lot of people on the Clergy Project are just overwhelmed by this. And, some start much later than 30. 50, 60.
Let's kind of go back to maybe at the very beginning of maybe your childhood, because I know that you grew up in church, right?
Yeah. My parents started out Methodist, and they were pretty fundamentalist, actually, because they were taking us into, my earliest memories were flannel graph lessons that a lot of people remember, where they bring out the heart and it's black because you are an evil born. It's just your nature. You're born evil. You're 5. And we have to have a blood sacrifice. That's this wonderful Jesus here. And then they put the red heart flannel graph, and then they put the white heart over. And this just all, I found that just totally confusing and disorienting, and like somebody basically telling you at 5 years old, you're not okay. And this is what evangelicals do. I'm a strong believer that is emotional child abuse and should be illegal, So then about then they also start taking you into the big church service. And a lot of the beanbag room where you're having fun, and having cookies and milk. And you see the guy on the cross, and he's almost naked, a little loincloth, thorns, blood. I was repulsed by the whole thing. And I was right. I was totally right. My parents were very wrong. But slowly, with the tool of the fear of fire, and I had touched the stove, and fear of hell, I caved in. And I said, there was a choice here: go for this or burn in hell forever. There was nothing else that could even occur to me at that age. So I was bullied into it. And it was ironically the same thing that got me out of it. I was a pastor of Christian Faith Church, Pentecostal church, and was moving from South Bend, Indiana to Phoenix, Arizona for health reasons. We had 5 children. And we were all just sick every winter there. I mean, just really sick, flus, cold, bronchitises. And it was taking a toll on all of us. And doctors suggested, because I still have scarring of bronchitis from that. And several of my children had, really bad ear infections every winter. So we had visited Florida, and then we had visited Arizona, and I didn't care for the humidity, so we moved to Florida. Just packed up, and just really like it wasn't making a move for a job or anything. I had no employment there, knew nobody. I just I want to live, get out of this.
That's fun though.
Huh?
That's fun though. Everybody else just kind of went along with it too.
The Ford station wagon, a big U-Haul 10x6 trailer, and off to Arizona. And when we arrived there, it was in April, and we left slush and snow in April. And it was just like, wow, why go through that suffering every year? And I remember sitting there out there at a Taco Bell and just feeling the air. And we were just like, took us a number of days to get there. And it was just like arriving in heaven, weather-wise. So I found work there at DeVry University as a student coordinator. And then they promoted me to a dean of students, and I did that for 10 years. And I had been like many Pentecostal pastors, I had other jobs.
So you did that alongside your pastoring job.
Right, yeah, very common. And I was radio station manager of WHME Radio, the first FM station. It was a Christian station. It was half Christian and half secular. Somehow they justified it, but they never call it secular, just nice music and stuff. And we were the first FM station to sell time in the country. Back then, FM, there was no commercials. Nobody ever thought it. And I said, let's sell some commercials. So we started selling commercials, the John Doremus show out of Chicago and so forth. And I don't know if it was for the weather. I don't even know if I would ever broke out of it if I hadn't gone to Phoenix, because I come talking to Luke Emmerich, who he had his conversion. He's on the clergy project. He visited India, and he always, had questions about all the immorality of God in the Bible and just justifying it. And what hit him, this is all cultural. I'm an evangelical cultural. All these people here in India, and the cultural influence is exactly what it's about. And so I was free of all that. We were out of there. I knew nobody. I wasn't hearing any of, the cult talk, the Christianese talk. It was gone.
So you were pastoring in South Bend, Indiana. Right. And then when you left there for health reasons was how you got out of the ministry.
Right. And the first thing I needed to do was to find a job. I wasn't going to be looking for a church because there's some Pentecostal churches there. They were really big, and I just didn't want to go. We had actually helped start this church and everything back there, and I just didn't want to go through that again. So I went and got the job, and after the first Sunday off, you feel really weird, like guilty. You're supposed to, when the doors are open, you're in church. My mother always said, when the church doors are open, we're there. And that actually cost me being on the high school basketball team, but they had practice, important practice on Wednesday nights. So that screwed that up. So then the second Sunday, we got lakes around here and everything and mountains. We went fishing. And then kids started playing soccer, and we started, wow, Sunday's free. And after a couple of months we went and visited this one big Pentecostal church and didn't even know anybody. And it was just, even though it was just so foreign because the culture really wasn't there. Nobody knew me or greeted me or my pals or buddies, any of that. And so I think it was maybe a little more, about 2 months we were come back from playing soccer, because we always play soccer on Sundays there. And I was looking at my boys. I had 4 boys. And this was just like the epiphany, just like you talk about it, the light going off. And I hadn't even been thinking about it. This kill your own son as a blood sacrifice. And I had been reading some Carl Sagan stuff, just of a general, had a telescope and getting into astronomy because the weather and the stars out there are so great at night on the desert. And it just hit me, just like at age 5. I just cringed all over. This is disgusting. And then it hit me, not only disgusting and horrible and, barbaric, it's dumb. A God of the universe, unhappy with his creations that he did.
So this was in your 30s when you were realizing this about Abraham and Isaac?
Yeah. And Jesus being, Jehovah killing his son, which was killing himself, which was suicide too. We won't get into all the legalities of the stupidity. But this God that could create the whole universe, the planets and the billions and all the Carl Sagan stuff, first drowns everybody and all the animals too, except 7 and Noah. And then that doesn't do the job. So next time I'm going to really torture and have him kill my son. And it just was all gone. I didn't wrestle with what scripture was true and false. I knew there was so much immoral, horrible stuff in there, but I had the answer. It'll all be explained in the sweet by and by this crazy God. But it just went away. I didn't go through any of the struggling. A lot of clergy projects do wrestling with this contradiction in the Bible and trying to unexplain the apologist stuff, and wrestle.
Yeah. So it was a really fast process for you when you started realizing it. It just kind of started to unravel really fast.
Well, if you look at it like that, you can only do one of 2 things. And every discussion I've had with an evangelical, everyone ends with this. They all say, okay, I know it's crazy. It's all crazy. It's irrational. It's not scientifically possible. There's immoral, the immoralities of Jehovah's genocidalness, killing all these nations in the fairy tales because of a different religion. They all admit this. And then what do? They run to the default. Well, but it's God and it'll be all explained in the sweet, So you either, and this is why I believe fascism and theocracy is running rampant in America.
Yeah.
Because evangelicals and fundamentalists are already pre-baked and pre-made fascists. Evangelical Christianity is fascism at its purest sense. I love you, love me,
I agree.
You serve me, or I burn you in hell. I really love you, but I'm going to burn your ass in hell. So, this is like, the abusive husband beating the wife, but I really love you.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, it just, the thing is, I had that opportunity to be culturally totally out of it. And it just—
That's really great.
Never even came back to tempt me to think, what if, I'll tell you, if I thought that crazy evangelical Christianity was anything but horseshit, and that's dignifying it.
Yeah.
Horseshit has some real sense, and I love horses, and I don't like cow shit smell, but horseshit has something about it. But if I thought it was anything but horseshit, and there was one chance in a trillion that I'd believe it. But I don't believe there's one chance in a trillion. It's too clearly, latently proven by religious anthropology that it's just all man-made horseshit. Grown-up Americans, people ask, why, how can they support type of a people in offices that are for fascism, basically. They want the strong-arm fascist leader. And it's a trend around the world right now, too.
I really couldn't imagine still being an evangelical Christian during this last election while all of this stuff is going on. And that was, I mean, when you're talking about fascism and all of these different things, it was a very similar thing for me too, where it was very abrupt, very quick. I started to notice all this immorality and I just couldn't unsee it. And elections were going on around the same time. And when you start to see the way people are reacting and other fellow Christians, it's hard to, it would be really hard right now to stick to my guns and continue to justify that.
Yeah, you end up with, you either endorse, the God of the Bible is worse than any dictator Earth has ever known. Far worse, far more immoral. Because even with a Hitler, when he killed you or gassed you, you're dead, right? That's it.
Yeah.
Not with the Bible God. The Bible God going to come back, pull you out of the grave, and torture you forever. That is the sickest, most evil idea of fascism that has ever been conceived. Adults still believing this horseshit should be ashamed. And the fact that they're putting this in little children's heads, it really gets me, pissed off.
How old were your children when you decided to leave?
They were like around, the oldest about 10 and 11, and then on down. So they were
okay.
They were exposed to some of it, but they were just, I guess, so happy. We didn't even really discuss it much. It just, the culturalness of it all. If we were still there, you're getting it all the time from the grandparents and the aunts and the uncles and the friends. It's the cultural force of these things that is so powerful.
So when you pastored, did your extended family go there too? The church you pastored?
My father did, my mother didn't, because my father got into Pentecostalism. My mother became convinced, her pastor, the Baptist pastor, convinced her it was a demon, tongues. Speaking in tongues, this is still common among Baptists and other to teach that this is a demon. So that helped their relationship, brother.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and what, her son would be the pastor of the church that speaks in tongues too?
Right. And my one sister did, and she was a great gospel piano player, like gospel quartet music.
Yeah.
We did a lot of that. And the other two sisters didn't. And my one sister, I just given a little book called The Gift of the Holy Spirit, and she went off and started praying, and then she started speaking in tongues, and her husband took her to the psych ward, and they committed her for a couple of days, and that was the end of that. I didn't push it with her,
That's crazy.
She came home right when she was in the middle of Hamagasimagoshikamaba and crying on her knees, and she gets put in the car and off to the psychiatric hospital.
Which, I mean, seems totally justifiable, but is also weird because I did so much of that. What was worship like?
Just kind of like regular worship with a lot of singing. We had a good gospel quartet and instruments, guitars. Dad played the violin. Like my sister was a really good, boogie. Gospel quartets do a lot of boogie woogie type. I'll fly one glad morning. Hovey Lister and the Blackwood Brothers. So we had a lot of fun, and we're focusing really away from the horrible reality of the Bible. We are into this spirituality of baptism and praying for people to get healed and stuff like that, which of course, yeah, I feel a little better. And they limp back to their car, you know.
Yeah.
They get a nice adrenaline boost. So we were probably treating them with endorphins.
Yeah. Oh, most definitely. It's endorphins. It's all sorts of hormones being pumped and, you know, adrenaline and whatever else. So when you decided to leave and you had not lost your faith yet and you were moving to Arizona, obviously
I never felt like I lost it ever.
You never did.
No, I didn't. I know people say that, you know, like you lose your wallet. I guess you lose a girlfriend, so that could be like losing your faith. I just felt like it just crumbled.
But did it do that for the rest of your family? Was it the same for your wife too?
Yeah, she was kind of been thinking about, you know, this had the same questions, you know, about the immorality of the Bible and the immorality of God, and how basically we didn't think it in those terms, but you know how fascist. It also always bothered us to you viewed a person as all fundamental. You're either lost or you're saved, right?
Right.
And so you have this tremendous ugly wall that it's foreign. I mean, it really affected me in high school with people that wanted to be way more friends than me that I would allow. And well, I really regret some of the girls that had a crush on me because I was a pretty big football star. And this one, she has kept a scrapbook on me since the 8th grade. And she was, you know, not my religion. So I just kind of smiled and never followed it up. And it just these walls.
Yes, I totally know what you mean.
So there was a lot of motive that was deep in us. It was just ready to just get out of it.
And you did a lot of that on your own just because it was instilled in you, or were your parents reminding you of, hey, no, can't date her?
Oh, yeah, that's, you know, if they're not a Christian, you don't date them, period. And a born again Christian. I mean, like a Catholic wouldn't qualify, an Episcopal wouldn't qualify, Presbyterian probably wouldn't, Mormon certainly not. So I mean, it was just dumb.
Most definitely. I mean, it really, really narrows down who you can interact with. I was the same way. I was wholehearted like that. So, okay, so when you were a teenager and then in your 20s, did you genuinely believe that stuff yourself, or do you feel like, you know, wait a minute, maybe I didn't really believe it all along?
No, I believed. I would have killed for it. You know, we would do rehearsals. The communists would take on over, and we'd dive under the table. You know, at church, we were gung-ho believers. I would, you know, I had a couple friends I got come to my house in the bedroom and give them a preaching, had them get on their knees and get saved. And yeah, I was a gung-ho. Now I try to preserve my ego a little bit, that there was a part of me down in my subconscious that knew what I knew when I was 5 years old. And when you think about it this way, it makes a lot of sense. The 5-year-old in me, you know, was always there. The 5-year-old with common human clarity recognized this is horrible, terrible horseshit. Dumb, wrong, disturbing. So after I realized one of the great values on the clergy project is I've just realized hundreds of things that I would have never had the insights. And when you get an insight, you get a release. You get a freedom. You break through layers, like, you know, in psychology and going through psychoanalysts, and you get more of the enriches of yourself and the potential. Anyway, so it occurred to me one time they were talking about dreams, and I realized I never had a dream about Jesus, God, or any of this. Nothing, not one. And I dream about everything, supernatural dreams, flying. If I'm flying, I start going down, I'm going to hit the earth. It makes no difference. I go right through the earth, come right back up out of a lake or something. Sometimes I'm hang gliding. I just use my arms. Sometimes I have a hang glider. I dream about everything. That kind of told me it never really got into my deep subconscious. The deep subconscious knew this is wrong. I've often wanted to put believers on a lie detector and see how they would really come out. Do you really believe this? Do you think that this God is okay with this type of genocide? Is this immorality? Give them some questions. I think that most of them would fail greatly.
Yeah, that would be really curious for sure. Because most of the time they're just justifying it, and you wonder what's going on in their head while they're struggling with that cognitive dissonance.
Yeah, that's what's going on in their head. Another realization, other than I never dreamt about any of it, is, and this was painful, I realized I would have made a good Nazi. Because
why do you say that?
Because we are all so programmable and brainwashable. Kids are defenseless. Most of those 90% of 90, something like 98% of the Nazis in Germany and were Christians, Catholic and Protestant. Yeah, kids will believe anything.
Yeah.
Going over and get them a gun young enough in Africa, and they're out. These little kids are killing people. Kids will believe anything. People tend to. I thought, they're not me. Wouldn't happen. No, there's nobody. There's no child on this earth that if you get them young enough and keep them in it, they're going to get brainwashed. Maybe when they get older, they might break out of it. They might not. But you can make a Nazi out of anybody. Yeah. I mean, the biggest factor and the commonality in anybody's religious belief is geography. You're born in Saudi Arabia. I wonder what religion they will be.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, you're not growing up as a Pentecostal pastor and your kids are choosing Islam.
You're told these crazy, crazy stories. I mean, I believed in Santa Claus.
Yeah, me too.
Santa Claus, and I'd listen to the radio and the stories about the North Pole. And then one day I discovered this outfit up in the attic. My grandfather would show up in, and I went, oh no. Oh boy. So I went around the neighborhood and burst everybody's bubble. I wanted to share my great insight.
I can see that.
Incredible. When I think about Christian evangelicalism or any fundamentalism, it's just the bottom word to me is dumb. It's just so dumb, and it's so political, and it's so way to control people.
1000%.
And it's and somehow, it's wonderful that we've lived in a lifetime where we've had a Dawkins or a Hitchens and Sagan, and there were people kind of like this before, but they really affected millions and millions of people.
Yeah, they really have. They really have. And I didn't even come across some of that even more hardcore stuff. There is, well, I consider it, I guess, a little bit more hardcore because I had gotten into atheist content when I got out, but with maybe some of the softer stuff, like Seth Andrews podcasts and stuff. But I mean, within the last few years, atheist content and books, all of that have really, really grown. There's a lot out there for basically everybody.
Oh, it's almost overkill at this point. I mean,
I know.
there's enough memes to deconvert all the believers if they just dare for a moment have one cognitive, some cogent thought, just one. That's all it takes.
Yeah.
One cogent thought. It doesn't take two. If they doubt, but you've got adults, right, that know everything I'm talking about the Bible. I mean, the contradictions. You can go on a site like Skeptics Annotated Bible. Hundreds and hundreds of contradictions and hundreds of sites of the abuses and the immorality. And one big point I always try to make out, because the Christians, the other default they run to, that was the Old Testament, blah, 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 blah. And I have to point out, how the New Testament says, John 10:30, Jesus said, I and the Father are one. So anything Jehovah did or is responsible for, it's not just Jehovah going to burn everybody in hell, it's nasty Jesus. So but they always try to run to that and the nice, sweet Jesus, but no, that's Jehovah too.
Yep.
It's the same deity, and it's really dumb, and it's really just the buying and selling of, I guess, horseshit is my favorite word today.
Yeah, I know you've been saying that a lot today.
I just have no respect for it. I mean, I know they have nice little dinners, and I know they have basketball teams, and I know that they have little activities and this, but so did the Nazis.
Yep. Any of that, those innocent activities can be done outside of church.
Yeah, there's never been a group that doesn't have some nice features.
So have you had any church members from back in the day get a hold of you finding out that you're atheist now?
Just like most people on the Clergy Project, those discussions are few and far between.
Yeah.
They don't want to do it, because if you could deconvert, they don't want to hear what got you out of it. So they have no motivation. I had one guy, and he was willing, call me and ask me, and I told him, and he said, yes, just listen to it, and that was that. But that's so rare.
Yeah, it really is. I had the same type of experience where it's almost like they don't want to go there. They don't even want to have much of a conversation at all.
Because they know it had to be, they know that we were the most gung-ho of the believers. We were as gung-ho as can be, and something got to us. It's like, no, I don't want to share my COVID virus with you. I'm not willing to share my COVID virus with you. Oh, no, thank you. No, thank you. I'll pray for you.
Yes. So when you walked away, what did your parents say? Or not when you walked away, but when you lost your faith, were you open about your atheism while they were alive?
I never lost my faith. It just crumbled.
Sorry, I keep saying that, don't I?
No. Some people do. It's just, I never say it, because the reason I don't like it is because when you say I lost my faith, what does a believer think? Oh, you poor thing, you lost your faith. It's just like, that's
true.
It's like you were trying to hang on, and you couldn't hang on, and you lost your faith. And so I think the believers take it all the wrong way. They take it, he didn't pray hard enough. He got, he listened to the voice of the devil. Something happened, and he lost his faith. No, I lost my wallet, but I never lost my faith. That was a bunch of junk that I discarded. I always say I discarded my faith. That's
a better way to put it.
Yeah.
So were you openly atheist to your family, to your mom and dad?
Pardon? Yeah. I told them that, I just was very gentle about it. And my mother, they didn't, like typical, didn't know what to say. And they were, older, much older. And I wasn't about to start, going after them. they'd been through enough with the tongues with me. Oh, you're in the tongues. What are you into now? You're sacrificing voodoo chickens? You're going to do it in the kitchen? You know? So just, I kind of didn't make a scene, and we just, and I'll tell you how nice I was. This is how nice I was. My dad, when he was older and he was basically pretty sick, he was on oxygen, he had heart failure. And I was back there visiting in the summer. Never, well, I did go back once in the winter. That was terrible. And I don't know whether he'd forgotten that I wasn't a believer anymore, but he said, could you pray for me in tongues? That really always helps me. And I said, okay. So it's just me in the house. I put my hands on him, and he just really got into it. So,
well, that was nice of you, though. You didn't really correct it.
Atheists are so much nicer. They'll just give out a free tongues, and
I would. I probably would.
Made him feel much better. Yeah. My mother came in the house, she would have probably started screaming, demons.
It's really weird to think back on those days, speaking in tongues and being slain in the spirit, dancing around. Like, I mean, I'm sure it was like a nice coping mechanism at the time, but it's so weird to look back on.
Well, and the Pentecostal thing is really way more fun than Baptists. I mean, they really, they were more fun in the music, and I watched little old ladies, this one that running down the aisle, or her baggy pants are falling down around her knees, and and it's slaying under the spirit, and their dress goes up and they run over with a white towel. Yep.
Got to cover up the ladies. They have to be modest after being slain in the spirit.
Yeah, and when I was into it, really getting into it, and to me, tongues was just a real great proof that this was real.
Yeah,
the spirit was real, and that was the one question after I quit believing this. I kept thinking about tongues. Wow, and so one day, after it was till I just kind of didn't know the answer to that, but I knew it really wasn't God, because I had an experience where I was doing secular music and I was feeling the music, and I kind of jumped. Oh my gosh, that was God. No, that's the music. Oh, that never was God. That was always the music. That was a one major chord going to a three major chord, and then to a diminished. Wow, those are God feelings. So I knew that. But when the internet came on, I looked up speaking in tongues, found glossolalia.
Yep.
We found it's just a natural phenomena, and it actually is therapeutic and stress relieving.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that before.
Yeah, so that cleared that up, and I cleared that up kind of for. There's a number of people, ex-Pentecostals on TCP, that I've pointed that out, and they never even yet heard of glossolalia, and they were still wondering about it in tongues. Were we just doing gibberish, or what was that?
Mm-hmm. They were have at least one case study out about glossolalia, where I think they were doing an MRI while somebody was speaking in tongues, or maybe multiple people, and just seeing that it was basically kind of like nothingness going on.
Right.
It's just same as meditation.
Yeah, it's just kind of like, in meditation, they go for nothingness. But what I always thought was impressive is I could talk in tongues just so fast, and I couldn't recite something that fast.
Yeah.
But I also found I could switch languages. Like see, I went Japanese, German. So if you listen to people, they tend to pick certain little monosyllables and their favorites, but I was good at jumping all over the place.
So mine pretty much stayed the same all the time. I was boring.
We had some real I think they were 5-word tongue talkers. Who come balagola? Who come balagola? Yamso. Who come balagola? And they're crying.
Yes.
Who come balagola? That's not worth crying over. You got to do something. The blessing and the go. I don't know. Humans are funny.
They sure are. They sure are. Okay, so what advice do you have for any other maybe current clergy, current pastors that are out there that could come across this and they're a believer, they're on the edge, whatever?
To the liberal believer, everyone that I know that is deconverted as a liberal believer, it's their worldview. They keep looking at the world and life, and that there's really no God doing anything except ignoring. And there'd be no way to have an all-powerful, all-knowing, all-loving God with all the power, with all-knowing, to allow this going on. No, the rottenness of human beings would do better. I mean, just pick any issue, like all the girls that were raped today on planet Earth. And here's God. All the brain cancer starting in little babies' brains. And here's God. Hear no evil, see no evil. No, God is hear nothing, see nothing, do nothing. This is what deconverts them. They just can no longer match up some kind of caring, loving God to the reality of life. It's like it was carved on a bench in Auschwitz by a Jewish person. There is Auschwitz, so there is no God. I mean, the illustrations are probably by the millions of why there is no loving, all-powerful, all-caring, all-present God. And that's what it is. And every really liberal Christian I've ever talked to, when I get to it, they're really agnostic. Because I'll bring up a few little points that just what I've been mentioning. I don't really know. It's just, I grew up in the Episcopal Church there, or whatever it was, and I don't really know. So they're really not a problem in society. They're not damaging children's emotions and giving them PTSD. Now, to the fundamentalists, they're all heavily based, all of them, on their other scriptures. Whether it's a Muslim or even a Hadassic Jew or an evangelical, that idea of inerrancy, the Bible is inerrant. Every word is true. If you can keep believing that and justifying this God with all the genocidal, evil actions, going to burn people in hell forever, then you'll stay a believer. But if you can no longer really, buy into that, then you really want to consider stepping out. One resource that I've used with so many people and got feedback, that anybody that would spend a half hour, even 20 minutes, it ought to be the end of their belief. And that's called the skepticsannotatedbible.com. There's just so much in there that
it was really good to talk to you, and I will talk to you later.
Good seeing you.
It really is. It's good to see you too. Bye.
Hey, darling, sleeping on the blacktop. Hey, darling, running through the trees, honey. Goes on like that.